Good morning, everyone. This is Jim Moore, and you are watching Words of Encouragement. Day, it's June 29th, in the year of our Lord 2022, and it is the program number 500 and I think it's 3. I might have wrote down 502. I'll have to double check that. Anyway, God bless you. Good to have you here. I am sitting on the steps of the fountain area right directly across from the Capitol, where we set up David's tent. And again, I felt like the Lord had spoke to me to come out here today. So I want to talk to you about some issues. I want to give you my perspective about a few different things, and I hope you'll stay tuned and listen today. And really think about what I'm saying. I don't claim to always be right. I don't think anybody can claim to always be right. I think it's kind of dumb to think that you know everything. But I think I'm right, or else I wouldn't say it, right? Yeah. Anyway, so I want to share with you what I think this morning, and then you can weigh it up in your own heart. And I'm not looking to start arguments, really, not at all. I feel like one of the things that's lacking in our culture today is conversation, and people have no tolerance for anyone that disagrees with them. They always perceive that as a threat, and perhaps you don't like me, or we're insecure sometimes. Anyway, so I want to talk about the pioneering spirit today. Good morning, Elijah. Nice to have you, friend. Tammy, God bless you. Good morning. What's to say? I'm always. I saw a bumper sticker years ago that I love to this day. I'm going to have to get one. It says this. It said, "Everyone has a right to my opinion." Anyway, so please keep an open mind as I talk about some of these things. I want to talk about the pioneering spirit this morning, and what that looks like, and what God has called us to do as human beings. And I do also want to talk about the issue of human rights a little bit, only because it's something that the Lord put in my heart this morning. And I know some of this stuff, it's like, well, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to think about that. I just want to think about Jesus. Me too. Yeah, he's my love. He's my one and only. He's my one thing. So, but I think the Lord is concerned about everything. I mean, this is his world. He made everything. He made us. All the social issues, whether they're good or bad, or anxiety or whatever, social anxiety, he is concerned about all those things. He's concerned about what concerns you, even if it doesn't concern someone else, okay? So don't ever think that the Lord is too high and mighty that he won't talk to you about stuff. Anyway, all right. I'm going to switch the camera on. Are you ready? Okay? Don't freak out. I'm going to switch the camera around because I want to show you a picture of where I'm sitting right now. Okay, so I'm sitting right here facing the state capitol. Let me adjust that just a little bit. So that picture is way far away, I know, but beautiful, beautiful spot. And I love looking at the Capitol. It's a place where holy things have happened, and it's also a place where wicked things have happened. Kind of like your body, your life. Holy things have happened there, and wicked things. But the Lord is the one who says, I want to be, I want to help you to do what is right always. And this building represents a body, as it were, the collective body of the state, even though it doesn't always represent the will of all the people. Anyway, notice the man at the top. I'm going to see if I can make this bigger without going too weird here. I know you guys have seen this before, so this is not anything you haven't seen. This is the picture I used on the thing this morning. I'll just stop right there. So hi Dale, hi Melissa. Before anybody starts shouting idolatry and freaking out and all that, please just hold your opinions for a minute, and I want to talk about what that represents, okay? Now, many people have never taken a real good, strong look. I'm not going to come out on one side or the other. That might seem like wishy-washy compromise, because I think we love to be, rah on this side, or bless God, I'm on that side. And so then we lose the ability to see it, I think, sometimes from different perspectives, and hopefully arrive at the way God sees it. But mostly what I've heard from people about this statue is how evil it is and horrible, and it's an idol. And I get that. I get why people would look at that and say, you know, ooh, icky, demonic. But I do want to tell you that our forefathers and foremothers did not see it like that. And that is a fact, at least some of them. Okay, not all of them. Again, we make these overarching statements that sweep everything under one category, and it's not true. There were those who came who were pioneers, who came for the glory of God, and then there were those who came for gold and money and oppression and so on. And why? Because they're people, right? Because some people are good and some people are not. And some people start out bad and turn good, and some people start out good and turn bad. I mean, come on. So you cannot put all the pioneers and all of that under one thing, say they were all evil or they were all super good. No. I mean, it's both. So anyway, I want you to notice in his hand real quick, that's an axe in his hand, okay? And that's a cloak behind him. I forget what the cloak was supposed to represent. Maybe somebody could look that up for me. But here's the deal. Very likely, you could have seen, if you lived, you know, whatever, how many years ago, 1859 or prior to that, when we started having people come over to this land, that man very easily could have been a Christian. Now, we're not used to seeing Christians like this, okay, because we're infected and affected by media and so on, and Christians are kind of mamby-pamsy. They're always compromised, they're always doing evil things, and they lose their temper. I mean, they're painted in a bad light almost always, which is really, really sad, because most of the Christians I know mess up on occasion, but most of the time they're really good people. So anyway, he's got an axe in his right hand, and he's got a cloak slung over his shoulder. I mean, he's a pretty rugged-looking dude, right? Okay, so that, if that was modeled after a real individual in those times, he was, I'm going to say this now, hear me close, he was likely a believer. Why? Because believers outnumbered non-believers to a very large degree. Okay, let me turn the camera around again. Now, I'm going to tell you some things that maybe you knew, maybe you didn't know. Again, don't get your fighting cockles up, all right? Just listen and hopefully learn. So, you can challenge me. I have no problem doing that. Just save it until I'm done. So, the Golden Man. When I was a little boy, that was the hallmark of the city of Salem. I was born and raised right here in Salem. And it was kind of a known thing that moms and dads would tell their kids, if you ever get lost, just look for that Golden Man and head towards that, and we'll know where to come and find you. So that's interesting to me, the concept. I say the same thing about Jesus. If you ever get lost, if you ever don't know what to do, get your eyes on him, view him, and go down. I'm not saying the Golden Man's Jesus. That's not, you get what I'm saying? No, it's a focal point. Now, again, back to the issue that many people don't see believers as pioneers. I actually am one, okay? I believe that those who name the name of Christ are meant to pioneer. We are meant to, I'm going to take my hat off here so you can see my bald head. We are meant to actually pioneer the gospel of Jesus Christ into places unknown. Good morning, Angie. We are meant to pioneer things that people, where they've, to boldly go where people have never gone before. Now, maybe it's not a pioneering issue for you, but it is for other people. There's always someone who has yet to experience the true love of God, heard the gospel of Jesus Christ, felt his power, and been delivered from darkness like I was. And today, in our world, people are getting exceedingly angry, and a lot of them are getting angry at Christianity and Christians because they have a negative viewpoint of them. I saw a video the other day where and there's a lot of rallies happening right now, pro-life rallies and pro-abortion rallies. And at a pro-abortion rally, there was a guy out there with his Bible, and who knows, he very well could have been acting crazy, because lots of times people can get crazy, I'm just saying. But he had his Bible out there, and somehow the pro-abortionist guys got super angry at him, took his Bible away from him, started kicking it like a volleyball around the court, or on the concrete, and just tearing it up. And he's filming it, and he's telling them how bad this is, and finally it winds up in the toilet. Somebody picks it up and takes it to the outhouse. The anger that is happening right now against Christians and Christianity is on the increase, on the rise, okay? So what you're not supposed to do is back off and say, well, I don't want to be, I'm just going to get real timid and all that. No, we are supposed to be a witness, but don't give the enemy an excuse, okay? Don't go out there screaming and foaming at the mouth and waving your Bible around and getting people's faces and provoking. That's not God. That's not how he does it. Okay, so anyway, my point is we're called to pioneer truth to people. Real quick story here, and I don't want to bore you with all of my stories, but when I was a young man, I went on a 40-day fast, and at the end of that fast, I had a vision of a log cabin, and then the Lord, I was up in the woods, and the Lord actually took me down a trail. I mean, this wasn't a vision, this was real. After I came out of the vision of the log cabin, the Lord took me down a trail out in the woods, and it led to the log cabin that I saw in my vision. It was outstanding. And I asked him why he did that. He says, because you're a pioneer. And that started me on just a whole nother journey. And there's still many things to pioneer. And so Linda and I pioneered the Salem House of Prayer, and we've done other things. And that's not my point. But what are you and I as Christians called to pioneer? Well, wherever there's darkness, we're called to pioneer light. Wherever there's injustice, we're called to pioneer what is right and what is just and righteousness in that situation. Our governing bodies in the state used to believe that. It's actually in Balzen, how do you say that? It's graven right there. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. I can't read it because it's far away, but it is literally engraved on the right and the left of the massive doors on our state building, that the cause of righteousness is why we have governance at all. It's to bring justice and righteousness to people. All right. So years ago, people came to this state. And again, I want to bring this into today because we are still called to pioneer. Now, pioneer in the spirit of the pioneer, like that's on top. Now, I know that pioneering can become idolatrous. Anything can become idolatrous, okay? The very serpent that God himself told the Israelites to fashion and put on a pole, and that Jesus looked at and said, that's a symbol of me, of becoming sin for you. As Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness on the pole, so shall the Son of Man be lifted up. I mean, it was an image that created in the mind of God and fashioned by the hands of Moses to symbolize the Lord. Eventually, that serpent on the pole, the bronze serpent, do you know that became an idol? You can make church an idol. You can make anything an idol, okay, except for maybe God himself. But the point is, people have looked at that, and I've heard this so many times. That's a symbol of our rebellion against God, and we're just going to go and do whatever we want. And well, I'm sure there were people like that. But the first people that came to this state, Jason Lee was a missionary. He was a 20-something-year-old man. You need to know the history of the ground that God has decided to place you in. I know you think you brought yourself here, but it wasn't, okay? The Lord says, no, I'm going to plant your feet in an area. All right. You need to know because you are responsible. One of your rights, if you want to talk about rights, is to be responsible before the Lord. Okay, and your responsibility is to know a little bit about your state. What is the destiny? What is it that God wanted to do here in the first place? Because I had an experience with the Lord once where I was talking to him about Jason Lee, and I was saying, thank you, Lord, for Jason Lee and the company of people. They were all believers. They were all, some of them spirit-filled believers who actually spoke in tongues. I mean, we just don't even know this stuff. And I wasn't much of a history guy until my friend Aaron Hour, flipped the switch in my heart. So Aaron, if you're watching, I love you. Anyway, Aaron has a ministry called Roar, Reviving Oregon's Amazing Roots, and he'd go around dressed like Jason Lee. And anyway, you'll have to look him up. But they were believers that came here, and they came for the express purpose of winning the lost. That was it. They answered what was known as the Macedonian call of the West. Okay. And I had this experience. I was talking to the Lord about Jason Lee, and he says, oh yeah, Jason's right here with me. I mean, I heard him say this. Jason's right here with me. Yeah, that was just a couple of days ago. A day with the Lord is 1,000 years like a day. So to the Lord, it's like, oh yeah, that was just a few moments ago when Jason was on the earth and he was doing his thing. Yeah, he's here, right? He's here with me. what do I mean by that? What I mean is that the destiny that God had for the state, and your state, if you're somewhere else, is still intact. He is still looking for men and women who will agree with that initial destiny, even though so much has changed, and say, yes, God, I believe you, that what you planned initially is going to come to pass. There's a lady, I'm blanking on her name, but she's like God's general's lady. She prophesies. Oh, I can't think of her name. Anyway, she came to Salem years ago at a YWAM mission base. Maybe you remember her name. And Cindy Jacobs, thank you. Cindy Jacobs prophesied, one of the few prophecies I've heard over Salem and the state of Oregon, said that Salem is going to be known for two things. Literally, she prophesied this like back in the 80s or 70s. She said, Salem, thus saith the Lord, Salem will be known for two things. It'll be known for prayer, and it'll be known for winning the lost. And here I am sitting on these grounds. This is our 8th year of doing David's tent. We're about to set up 2 tents. First time we've ever done it in this way. We've had side tents before, but we're going to set up the original tent, the Oregon Tabernacle tent from my good friend Millie Yamasaki. It was the very first tent we set up in my backyard, and then we moved it here. Thank you, Millie. And that's going to be the prayer tent. We're going to do prayer again in that tent after 8 years, new beginnings, number 8. And then the second tent is a little bit larger tent. We're going to use that for evangelism. So these two things are coming together. And these were the things that Jason Lee did. This was the pioneering he did. Yes, there were other guys that came. I'm not even going to mention their names, but I could. Men who came for greed. Men who came really in an idolatrous, rebellious way against the Lord, for real. Okay, but what are we going to focus on? I tell the story years ago. Linda's a seamstress. By the way, if anybody needs seamstress work done, if you're listening, she'll do it, and she'll do it for a ridiculously cheap price. Honey, raise your prices. Anyway, so she made me a shirt once, and the shirt had all these flames on it because I was like, fire of God. Sorry, sometimes I just feel the Lord and I don't know what to do. Jesus said, God said, I'm a consuming fire. I want to be consumed by this fire. I don't want to be passive. I don't want to be I'm just going to live my life, go to work, come home, drink a couple beers, and go to bed again. I don't want to be that man. I want to be on fire for God. So she made me this shirt, okay, and it had all these flames on it. And almost immediately I met 2 guys, okay. The first person I met said, he looked at the flames and goes, man, that reminds me of the fires of hell. What are you wearing that shirt? That's the fires of hell. And I walk away going, oh, wow, man, you totally misrepresented that. And then I come to another guy a little after that, and he goes, oh, man, that's the fire of God. And he starts encountering the Lord. I see the same thing for that man up there. Yeah, you can see it as an idol. And for some, it was. For some, that's exactly what it would represent. And maybe it's supposed to represent both. But you know what it represents to me as a pioneer? It represents the spirit, the tenacity, okay, of people, my forefathers, that's still in me, to be a pioneer, to go where, not to sound totally kooky, but to go where no one's gone before. Pressing, my name is more, and I believe we can have more. I believe we should have more. I believe we should always be pressing in. And you don't have to be like me, but I have that spirit in me. And I want you to have it too. So, one of the things I wanted to mention real quick, and I know I'm jumping around here, but there are little triangles embedded in the ground here. I'm not going to turn around the thing for the second time, but everywhere you go on this whole grounds right here, which God, I believe, is beginning to sanctify. I feel His presence here, and I invite you to come out and pray. David's tent. Starts July 8th and goes through the 15th, first Friday in July. I think it's first Friday. But what I mean is to come out beforehand and walk around and just ask God to cover it, send His angel. I believe God will literally dispatch angels to come, because I know we all say we believe in Him, but we really don't. Okay, I'm not trying to be mean. To stand on this ground and get ready. So these little triangles they're just little concrete things embedded in the ground here. They tell some of the history of Oregon. And you want to know, you should know a little bit of the history. You want to know, just go around and read them. Now, one of them that I read this morning, there's at least 35 of them out here. It's great. You should read them. I think I've read every one of them a couple times. But one of the ones I read was about the Oregon motto. Here's a great example of what I'm talking about, the pioneer spirit. Okay, the initial, and many people don't know this, you can verify, you can look it up. It's, I believe, as far as I can tell, it's a historical fact. People say, well, they changed the motto from the Union to she flies with her own wings. That's kind of true, but it's kind of not true as well. So initially that was the motto, she flies with her own wings. Then it was changed to the Union right before the Civil War because they wanted to promote the fact that we were a northern state and we were on that side of the equation, the Union. And I believe that is literally a prophetic calling and destiny of our state to bring unity to the country. As one man, I believe Lou Engle said, that a united church will heal a divided country. I believe that that is possible. Anyway, so it started out as, and again, you can verify this, you don't have to take my word for it. Started out, she flies with her own wings, and then it went to the Union, and then under Barbara Roberts, I think in 1987, changed it back to its original, she flies with her own wings. Now, that motto can have a good or a bad meaning. Initially, I'm pretty sure back in the 1800s or early, 1800s, when the man, and I think his name is Nesbitt, whatever, came up with that motto, they say the reason that he wanted that motto was because he was recognizing the pioneer spirit. He was recognizing the fact that we were coming here, that we were not a part of Great Britain, which much of the Northwest was, that we had a provisional government for a while, kind of like Texas, you know, we're like, you know what, whatever the rest of you do, here's what we're going to do. And and again, these were mostly godly men and women. Okay, know your history. So, and eventually, all kinds. And so then it was changed, you know, because it started to be perceived as a negative thing. Like, we don't want to be a part of what anybody else is doing. You know, the Civil War was about to happen. And then it's like, well, we need to change that. We need to say that we are a part of the Union, okay? That we're for union. Remember, the states were going to be divided, North and South, you know, slavery and not slavery, whatever, okay? And they were going to cast their lot. We're a northern state, we're not going to rebel against that, and so on. So the Union became the motto. And then it got changed back. Why did it get changed back? Because that began to be perceived as a less important thing, and a more important thing was the independent spirit of this country, I believe, in a negative way, on this state. In other words, we're going to do things our own way. Now, I do believe that has taken hold in this state, and our state has become incredibly rebellious. In other words, the thing that some people see in that pioneer, okay, what it's become, which is kind of like rebellion, and we're not going to, you know, we're going to do it our way. We have led the way in some really good things. If I were to read one of those diamonds to you about some of the firsts in Oregon, you would go, oh my gosh, that's a really good thing that we did. Okay, I'm not going to go into them. You'll have to come and read it because I don't have time. But then we've led the way in some wicked things. So here's what I'm trying to get at with this. Okay, know what you're talking about. Okay. Know that anything can start out good and turn bad, but anything that's turned bad can become good again. Or anything that starts out bad can become good, or vice versa, or whatever, 100 times. Israel, great example of this. They had the pioneering spirit for good, and they did good for a long time, and then they did bad. And then they came back and did good and bad and good. You know what I'm saying? That's the history, not just of the nation of Israel, but of humankind. And you have the capacity to be incredible powerhouse and just a giant for the Lord if you really want to be. Okay? And I know the devil will tell you, no, you don't have the ability, blah, blah, blah. He's a liar. Okay? Mark it down, tattoo it on your forehead. The devil's a liar. Okay? God is true. Okay? Don't really do that. So the nature of human beings, the nature of governance, okay, the nature of education, entertainment, and the nature of anything, okay, our food, the nature of food starts out pure, wholesome, holy, not polluted with pesticides and all kinds of, hormones and all that, it starts out good, right? This is the nature of humanity and the planet in general. God starts it out good, we mess it up, it can come back to good again. This state, still, its destiny isn't any less intact than it was the day that God birthed it through a young man named Jason Lee, who answered the Macedonian call of the West. Short history lesson on that. I know some of you already know this, bear with me. And I'm not going to give you all the details, super simplified. Native American chiefs, dream, book of heaven, 5 of them, all of them have the same dream, book of heaven. They're going to go find the book of heaven. This, in the dream, you can get to heaven, you need to read this book. They go on a journey halfway across the United States to Kansas, or Missouri, excuse me. They cannot get the book. The book is not in their language. They come back, all of them but one die on the way. The last chief writes a letter to the great chief in Washington, the president, and bemoans the fact that they're not going to be able to go to heaven. We're talking about a heathen king, or heathen chief that doesn't know God at all, but wants God. And this letter that he sent to the great chief in Washington sparked a passion and a weeping in churches and a burden to answer the call. They saw that on the East Coast. They saw that as like a type or an example of the Macedonian call. You know the Macedonian call in the Bible where Paul wanted to go to Asia and the Lord said, no, you can't go. He gave him a dream, said, don't go to Asia. And then he had a dream of a Macedonian man who was praying and saying, come over and help us, come over and help us. That's what's called the Macedonian call in the Bible. And because our forefathers and mothers on the East Coast were still pretty spiritually minded, when they heard about this dream, they called it the Macedonian call of the West. Yes, there was calls for gold. Yes, there was call for conquering new territory, blah, 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 blah. Yes, a lot of evil happened. I'm not going to minimize that because there was a lot of evil. It happened from the people that lived here and it happened from the people that came here, okay? It's truth. It is the truth, okay? But there were some who came for right reasons. They answered the Macedonian call of the West. And now God is calling you and I to answer his call, to do what he says, to give up our rights. I think I want to mention real quick about our rights. Somebody says, and I've heard this said a lot of times, as a believer, you don't have any rights. I don't think that's exactly true. I mean, I get where you're going at, this idea that we become part of the culture that claims Christianity and we're out there willing to yell and scream and fight for our rights. I really believe the rights that God has given us in this country, he actually gave us. He actually gave us. And your forefathers spilled their blood so that you would have the privilege. I mean, you can call it a right. I actually call it a responsibility. Okay, I call it a responsibility. You have the privilege of being able to post on the internet that, what you believe about rights in general, human rights or whatever. To say that Christians have no rights, I just don't think that's correct. Okay, when you think of the word right, there's a few different ways to look at it, and I don't know that I really want to go into that really deep, but think about what you're saying. Okay, think about what you're saying. As a believer, have you given up all of your rights? Well, now, I guess that kind of depends. If God says, here's a right I've given you, is it really? I mean, it's kind of like false humility. Oh, no, I don't want that right. You gave me the right to preach the gospel. Oh, I don't really care if I maintain that right. Really? Is that what we're saying? Okay, and again, you don't have to become like, some bizarre, wild and crazy patriotic movement, although I don't think they're all wild and crazy, but some of them are, okay? Some of them, there's always groups that go to the extreme, right? You don't have to become like that. And this is what we do. We throw down the gauntlet and we say, rights, our rights, our rights, and we go crazy that direction, or then we try to course correct that and we say we don't have any rights at all as believers. I don't think that's true. I think there were certain rights that God said, oh no. When you come to the cross, okay, you have the God-given, let's call it a right, to believe that he has saved you. Okay, that's a promise. If God makes a promise, do you have a right to claim that? Yes, you do have a right to claim that. So again, let's be careful about our words. Let's make sure we say what is right and what is true, and not just in some, over exuberant way in order to get people on our side or to course correct people that have gone crazy. The truth is what sets us free. Okay? That's all I'm going to say about that. Part of the reason I'm saying this is because yesterday I'm just going to say it. They may bounce me. I'll say it anyway. Okay. YouTube is not a government agency. Okay, we derive our rights from certain things. There's some things that God says, yep, I give you the right to do this. Like your free will. That is a God-given right that no human being can naysay or take away. That's slavery when they try to take that away, okay? You don't have any rights at all. You're a slave. I'm a love slave to Jesus. That's different, okay? So God has given us the right to choose and will. But some of these entities, like YouTube and Facebook, they're not the government. See, some rights we get because of the government, right? The government says, okay, you have a right to do this. We won't try to stop you, okay? Or we will allow you to do this. Okay, you cannot rob stuff from your neighbor, so on and so on. You get what I'm saying? Every time I want to talk about this, I don't feel like I really explain it very well, but we need to think about these things. I don't have a right to be on YouTube. Did you know that? I really don't. I don't have a right to be on Facebook. They are a private entity. I know some of you are going to rage about this, but they are a private company. Okay, now they have come to a place where they influence so many people that the government wants to step in and regulate what they can do. Some for good and some for bad. Some want to regulate your right to say whatever you want to say. Some want to take that away from you. Okay? Anyway, YouTube yesterday bounced they deleted one of my programs from a couple years ago because it was entitled January 6th, Live at the Capitol. I was doing it right here, and it was January 6th. I think that was Inauguration Day. Because there's such a big kerfuffle about that right now, they actually searched and looked for those words in the 500 or 300 or 400 YouTube posts that I have. And I don't even think they watched it, but they probably just assumed, because of the nature of who I am, that I came on the side of those who, would declare that, it was illegitimate and all of that. And they just took it off. They just took it off. And they send me a little thing saying you took it off. Now, my first response to that is to get kind of upset. Well, how dare you do that? Did you even listen? I actually wrote to him. I was nice. I said, did you even watch that? Please tell me what it was I said that got me bounced off that. And I honestly don't think there was one guy who cussed. But yeah, there's a lot worse than that on YouTube. And the Lord started talking to me. He says, it's not necessarily your right. Okay, let me say it this way. If you come into my house, you don't have a right to do whatever you want. Why? Because God has given me authority over my space. He has, period. If I give that authority away, then that's on me. Okay? Now, it doesn't mean I get to do whatever I want because I'm under God, and the things that He tells, my first right is to do what He says. Okay? Now, that's God's authority. There's also natural authorities. We have systems whereby people come together and they make, rules and regulations and so on. They say, no, you don't have a right to kill your neighbor. No, you don't have a right to, paint the Capitol building in graffiti. I mean, and we want those, right? We do want those. But then when they step over that line and say, you don't have a right to stand out in the public square and sing songs about Jesus, that would be something that I would fight for. Okay? It's not ungodly to fight for that. It's not, you don't have any rights, Jim, as a Christian, so you shouldn't do that. You get what I'm saying? We need to think these things through. Do you have a right to protect? And again, I've heard people say, you don't have any rights at all. You're a Christian. You gave up all your rights. Really? So you don't have a right to protect your family. I'll bet if somebody came to assault your family, you would exercise that right. Okay. I'm on my soapbox now. I'm just saying, let's be intelligent. Let's think these things through before we say them. And again, let's have a conversation about it. I'm willing to be challenged on these things and so on. Anyway, let's come back to my original thought, the pioneering spirit. What are you willing to do to get out of your comfort zone? What are you willing to do? Are you willing to come down to these grounds before even the tents are even set up? Are you willing to come down to here and just walk around and pray in faith that God is actually listening to you and going to do something? Are you willing to come and help? I mean, it's amazing to me how long it takes people to actually sign up for stuff. They'll wait till like the last day. Are you willing to come down and help? Are you willing to come down and say, you know what? I'll watch over the tent for a couple of hours during those 8 days. Are you willing to come down and sit in a chair with nobody else, all by yourself, or with your church? Are you willing to, pastor? Are you there, pastor? Are you listening? Are you willing to stand up? I know a lot of pastors who believe in this, and they might come out themselves, but they'll stop short of standing up in the pulpit and saying, I am going to David's tent. I believe in what we're doing. You know, we're setting aside all of our distinctions and, you know, all of our missions and all of the things that make us unique, and we're coming together over 2 issues, Jesus and worshiping and praying to him. That's it. Those are it. And we're doing it in the faith that God will help our state. And whatever way we think our state needs to be helped, which there's various opinions. Are you willing to do that? Yeah, you can come down, socialize, you know, watch the kids play in the fountain, you know, whatever, eat some food. Come talk to me. Love to talk to you, but let me pray sometimes too. That's all great. But we're really saying, God, we want you to restore the pioneering spirit. We want you to help our state to be a God-fearing state. We want you to help. So evangelism, those things that Jason Lee set out by God to do, you know, to win. Do we still believe that? All you people that think we don't have any rights, how about this? How about the right that you have? Really, because I see rights as a responsibility. If God has given me the right to protect my children, okay, there's some countries in the world you don't have that right. If they wanted to come in and take your kids, they'd just do it. Thank you, God. We don't live in a country like that right now. We still have the right to protect ourselves to a degree, right? Even that is being like chipped away at. I don't just see that as right, I see it as a responsibility. Okay? So God's saying, you know what? You can gather. You can gather. You can pray. Do you know why the enemy comes? And I'll stop right here because I know I've preached a long time. So I used to help my friend Peter Carlson. It was handed over to me to be the Oregon State Director for National Day of Prayer. And I told him, nope, I won't do it unless Peter helps me, which he graciously did. If you're watching, Peter, I love you. And you know, I wasn't big on the whole National Day of Prayer thing because I thought, you know, I am a lifestyle prayer guy, or I try to be. I try to be. I don't do it perfect. And I believe in praying every day. I believe in praying in first and foremost in terms of relationship with my God. And then, yes, praying for events and needs and healing, all of that. But first intimacy and then second ministry, you get what I'm saying. And so I'm an everyday prayer, not a once a year prayer guy. Anyway, I went to a meeting and we were talking. I think Peter got up and said something about National Day of Prayer, and I'm just kind of sitting there, and the Lord smacks me. You ever been God smacked? Okay. I love it. I love that. Listen, invite the Lord to rebuke you. Oh, you're crazy. No, I'm not. Invite the Lord to rebuke you. I think Peter probably hated it when Jesus said, "Get behind me, Satan." You know, I would hate that at the moment, but I believe that later on down the line, Peter was like, "Thank you, God, that you said that to me. Thank you that you arrested that path that I put myself on, that my thoughts thought were right," and so on. Anyway, so I'm sitting there in the front row, and the Lord speaks, because, I remember what it was. Peter was talking about, or someone was talking about how they were doing their best, satanic groups and false religions and atheistic communities, to shut down the National Day of Prayer. They were trying to infiltrate it. They were trying to shut it down. They were trying to get legislation against all this. And it was obvious that it was demonic. It was obvious that the enemy was the one that was doing it. And, you know, sometimes we see this stuff, but we don't really understand. So they were talking about this, and we were praying, and all of a sudden the Lord speaks to me, okay? Come in close. The Lord speaks to me. He said, "Jim, the devil cares more about the National Day of Prayer than you do." Pause for a fact. I'm going to repeat that. Come on, is anybody out there? Nobody's saying anything. God spoke to me, and I know it was God. I'll go to my grave knowing that it was God, believing that it was God. Okay? He says, because they were trying to shut it down and all this demonic stuff was happening. He said, Jim, the devil cares more about the National Day of Prayer than you do. I jumped up out of my seat and I roared and I wept and I said, dear God, forgive me for minimizing something. You give us the right to go out in the public square and pray, and Satan himself is trying to take away that right. Dear God, that's not an issue of arrogance. That's not saying I have a right to do this, and so, no, there's a difference between you having, anyway. So here's what I'm saying. The privileges, call them rights, call them privileges, I don't care what you call them, that God has given, you better recognize those are from the Lord, and you better take responsibility over those. I say that about David's tent. We still have the right. They've already limited us, okay? Because there is authority in the government, and we can only do so much, okay? But we used to be able to meet here, and I promise I'll end right now. We used to be able to put the tent up here and pray in the tent 24 hours a day. But somebody who no doubt was provoked by a bad spirit, that's all I'll say, decided that they were going to prohibit us from doing it at night. Okay? Well, there's a rule that says this, or blah, blah, blah. Even though we've done it for years and it was fine, they got new management and somebody stepped up and said, no, you can't do that. Can't do that. Okay? We had a right. It was gone. Okay? Now, how do we respond to that? There's different ways to respond to different issues. Here's how we did for that particular issue. We could have picketed and did all that. And there may be times I'm not going to say there's not the right times to do that, but in this scenario, we appealed to them, we tried every legal way we could, and finally we just let them know, okay, we'll honor that. We're not here to, the Bible does say about obeying the laws. We believe in that too, right? Okay. So what we did is we said, okay, well, we're still going to pray 24 hours a day. We still have that right. Do you know there's some countries it's illegal to pray to Jesus? Did you know that? How would you like that right to? Well, we just surrender to it because we don't have any rights. Really? Really? So that's why God established the United States of America, so that you could let the enemy come in through well-intended people who are being motivated by the devil to say you can't do that anymore. I mean, there are communist countries where they've killed people. They have raped and killed women and children and fathers and mothers because they pray to Jesus. And that's okay? We're just supposed to lay back and that's okay. Come on. Come on. Well, no, I didn't mean that. Well, then say what you mean. I'm sorry. Sometimes I hear this stuff and I'm just like, oh God, help us. Anyway, we said we're going to pray if we have to do it in our cars. We're going to pray 24 hours a day, no matter what, during those 8 days of David. And I'm not being arrogant. I'm just saying we had to make a commitment. We recognize this as the enemy trying to take away our ability to do something that we prior had the ability to do. So we said, okay, we'll go in our cars. We'll go 3 blocks away to the house of prayer. We'll stand on the sidewalk. And I'm not going to broadcast what we're doing right now. Okay, if you really want to know, you can talk to me, because I don't want to give ammunition to our enemy. But we are. When I say we're praying for 8 days in David's tent 24/7, I guarantee you we are praying 24/7. Anyway, so how about the pioneering spirit? Will you come? Will you come? Will you put it in your calendar? Will you move every other obstacle aside? Okay, those of you, I had somebody I talked to the other day, they're like, I'm sorry, I know I'm rambling on here. I got so much to say. I promise I'll stop. They said, we're coming. God told us to come. The next thing I hear from them is, well, we can't come because some little obstacle came up. And I'm like, come on, guys, really? You didn't expect an obstacle to come up? Really? I'm laughing. I'm not being critical. I'm just saying, come on. Set your gate. Talk it out with God. You feel impressed, blah, blah, blah. Just, yeah. Anyway, so, love you guys. Thanks for listening to some of my rants. And I appreciate you all so much. I do love y'all, even our enemies. We love our enemies. I'm not being phony. I really do believe that. I hope you do too. Yeah, matter of fact, don't enter into the spirit of hatred, okay, that's in the world today. I don't care how bad somebody treated you, forgive them and move on. Okay. Amen. Love you guys. So share this with somebody if it helped you. Come out and pray every day between now and the 8th until the 10th starts. We're going to need people to help us set it up early morning, probably like 8 o'clock in the morning on the 8th. 8 on the 8th. You can remember that. We need people to help set up 2 tents. We've got all kinds of things we're doing. If you even think of a pastor that could rally his troops and come, you call them. It's on you. If God puts them in your mind, it's on you. You called that pastor up and you said, please. I had somebody ask a pastor the other day, and they just flat refused. No. If it's not something we're doing, we're not going to do it. That's not the Lord. Anyway, call up somebody, testify to somebody, send them the link. Do what you can do. Be a pioneer. Amen. All right. Love you guys. God bless you. Thanks for listening. And as always, give yourself permission to have a great day. Bye-bye.